A wise old hobbit once said, "It's a dangerous thing to go outside." And he wasn't wrong. But then again, staying inside wasn't exactly the right move either. You can pretty much get injured and die anywhere. And no matter what you do, the most important thing to remember is life is a terminal condition. You're gonna die. I've gotten more than a few people who criticize me for not wearing a helmet and not wearing a life preserver. And for the most part, I just ignore it. Who am I kidding? I never ignore that shit. These critics come in two flavors. One, you're dumb for not wearing a life jacket. And then the other one, which isn't quite as bad, but the ones that say, "Hey, great show, really enjoy it, learned a lot." And then they end with, "You should be promoting helmets and personal flotation devices." Now, I am not opposed to wearing helmets or wearing personal flotation devices. I don't care what anyone chooses to do that affects only them. If they feel safer wearing helmets and they feel safer wearing personal flotation devices, they should wear them. But I probably will never in my entire life, no matter how much I think about it, will be able to understand people who feel the urge to tell an adult that is not hurting anyone at all what they should or shouldn't do. You know who you are right now. You are stuck on that sentence. They're not hurting anyone at all. I have taken my board out into the water and ridden it almost 1,000 times now. I've never hurt myself and I've never hurt anyone else. So my statement's true. I'm not hurting anyone. Now, if you are a pedantic motherfucker, you're going, "Okay, fine, I'll edit my statement and I will say you're taking unnecessary risks." Okay, fine, I'm taking unnecessary risks. So then you must oppose a lot of other things in life, right? Because people take unnecessary risks every single day. I mean, sure, you've got your extreme sports people like your skydivers and your bungee cord jumpers and your wingsuit guys. Then you've got your astronauts and then you've got your deep sea welders. People take unnecessary risks all the time, sometimes for fun, sometimes because they find it more necessary to fix the bridge by going underwater and welding it to just let it fall into the sea. Define necessary, explain that to me. If you love doing it, and for you to feel like you've lived a fulfilled life and you would need to do it, and it doesn't harm anyone else, and it has inherent risks, but you have weighed them and you've decided that what they give you is significantly better than that risk, then isn't it just up to your own autonomy and your own authority to make that decision for yourself as to what risk you're willing to take? No other adult should tell you what to do, right? Right? Let's get to the meat of it. Because if you are that pedantic little twerp that's still hanging on to, yes, but you would go skydiving, you'd take 2 parachutes, you've probably already thought to yourself. And astronauts take all these precautions, and all these jobs you talk about, they have all these precautions. They wouldn't do these things without them. We should do everything we can to diminish the risk to ourselves that we possibly can, unless, of course, making that decision would make your enjoyment of it a lot less. Surrender for a second, hear me out. You're saying to yourself, yes, but you see, it doesn't diminish the quality of the ride to wear a life jacket on an eFoil. I mean, they even make impact vests. And yes, they do make concussion and impact vests and these tournament wakeboard vests. I wore them for years as a competitive wakeboarder. Wore them all the time. Why? Because if I wore a giant one, I wouldn't be able to, a big self-rating personal flotation device, I wouldn't be able to compete. So yes, I wore these. I wore them for a very specific reason. I wore them so that when I fell on my back, I didn't spend the next couple of days urinating blood, because I find that very disturbing. And I like my kidneys. They filter my blood, they provide me with adrenaline and many other core functions, honestly. Dying of sepsis sounds horrible. They're not designed to provide you with anywhere near enough flotation to save your life if you ever fall and you get knocked out. Any part of you is compromised. Hell, you get a bad cramp. You just be floating face down in the water, and you will die like that. You will die like that, and so many people have died like that because they thought it was a personal flotation device that would make them float. And they didn't know any better, and they put them on, and they thought it was gonna save their lives, and it absolutely didn't. The people that come on there and they say, you should at least be wearing a concussion vest or an impact vest, they're the worst, because they're actually just straight up ignorant. They're just the big dummies that think they're coming into the room being smarter than everyone else, and they're saying a thing, and they're actually the dumbest. It's dumb. It's super dumb. Don't do that. Don't be dumb. I'm going to call you out when you're dumb. You should call me out when I'm dumb. The big difference between dummies and smart people isn't that they make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Smart people probably make more mistakes than anyone else. The difference is that smart people will fucking realize it when they've made a mistake, admit that they're wrong, investigate it, learn a ton, change their opinion, and they won't just fall deeper into dogma or of losing face online with some stranger, somebody you don't even know. What the fuck? I'm going to be wrong a lot, and I'm okay with that. Now, the second type of person. Ignorant people are bad. Ignorant people that don't realize they're ignorant and are fighting to remain ignorant and make others ignorant, they're bad. But this next one, it irks me in a different way. It probably won't come to a shock to many of you that I struggle with conformity. I would say anytime I don't see an advantage to conforming, I don't. There are some reasons you should conform, absolutely. Things like everyone's waiting at line to get on the chairlift. We should all conform to a line. We should all live in a way that we don't make life miserable and ugly for everyone else and make other people feel as though they're being treated unfairly. We should conform to the line. That has a purpose. That's a good thing. That's good for everyone. But there's a lot of things that people conform to. They don't know why, and they don't serve a purpose, and many, many times they actually cause a lot of harm. But there are people, probably that are wired like Charles Manson, that when they see someone who is doing something on their own, making a decision for themselves, they need to judge that. They need to call it out. They need to call that person names or stupid, or they need to tell that person that, hey, this show you built on your own over 5 years and mass an audience, everything. You know what you should do? You should promote a thing I care about for some reason. I'm sorry, lady, make your own damn show and promote life jackets. Why don't I do that? Why don't I do that? I don't spend much time telling adults what they should do. The idea that I should promote something that 100% of my audience, go ahead and prove me wrong, but 100% of my audience knows exactly what a personal flotation device is. They know how to use them. They know why they should use them. Many of them do use one, and anyone who chooses not to, I assure you, they're not using it because of ignorance or of drowning. It's not like they're going out there going, oh, I didn't know that I could drown if I go in the water. They all know that. Think about my audience. It's 99% men between the ages of 24 and 64. This is a population that, generally speaking, peer pressure doesn't work all that well on them. Being told what to do by some guy in Minnesota on a podcast is telling them to do it because it's a good idea, they're not swayed by that shit. Promote a life jacket? Why? Why would I ever do that? Again, find me a single audience member that actually has never heard of these before. Then here's everybody else. Everyone else that's like, damn, he's really going to town on this. Like, what's his deal with safety gear? Why is he so upset at it? I'm not against any of these things. I wear helmets when I snowboard and I ski, or back when I wore a motorcycle or flew an ultralight, or when I did all sorts of dangerous things where it made a lot of sense to wear a helmet, I wore a helmet. But I'm out in the water. I land a lot in the water, and I've never landed on my board, and I guess I don't really see the purpose of wearing a helmet when the way that I fall, and I've fallen hundreds and hundreds of times and proven to myself again and again and again, after my first season of wearing a helmet, I wear as much safety gear as would protect me as much as possible without diminishing my enjoyment of the sport. And if you're going to argue with me that my personal experience on a board and what I am able to judge for myself is a worthy risk and how much it diminishes my enjoyment of the sport, you're only using your own values and what you feel for yourself and trying to apply it to me. And that pisses me off. And that's why I fight this stuff. Why do I fight this stuff? Because when people go unchecked and tell people what they should do, it starts off as a simple thing, and people say, why are you complaining about it? I'm complaining about it because people like those people, they need to be stopped every single time and aggressively. Why? Because they will criminalize something I love. They do, they have, and they will, and let me explain. I'm standing on a beach. This is my chance of dying due to drowning while I'm on this beach. I'm gonna walk to the dock. I'm on the dock now. This is the chance that I will die standing on this dock. By the way, the two things I have done are not criminal. I'm gonna get on that raft right there that is covered in bird shit. My chance of dying from bird shit-related diseases is very high, so I'm not going to do that. I don't have to wear a life jacket on that, and that does not make me a criminal. Now, I'm gonna get on a boat. I'm on a boat now. I took a step that was about 1.5 feet long, and I jumped in a boat. I'm not wearing a life jacket. I'm now a criminal. I am breaking the law. I'm breaking the law. Here's my chances of dying from being in this boat that is tied to my dock and not wear a life jacket. I'm going to go swimming now. I'm going to take off everything but my Speedo. I'm going to jump into the water, and I'm going to swim across the lake, and I'm going to swim back. I'm not going to wear a life jacket. I'm not going to be a criminal while I do it. My chances of dying from doing distance swimming on my own in a body of water this large is right here. Not criminal. Not criminal. I'm going to get on my surfboard. I'm going to ride it in medium-sized waves, whatever. I'm going to ride it. Here's my chances of dying from drowning doing that. Currently, you don't have to wear a life jacket. In most places, you don't have to wear a life jacket. Certainly not a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. You don't have to do that. And here's your chances of dying. Can I ask you guys a question? Why is it that standing in a canoe is a criminal offense if you do it without a life jacket on, but I can swim across the lake without a life jacket on, much higher chance of dying, and that's not a criminal activity. Can everyone answer that question just for yourselves? Or put in the comments, do you know why? Do you know why? It is because if you were to force people to wear a life jacket to go swimming, it would absolutely diminish the enjoyment of that sport for that person. And we've all decided that person, for some reason, has a right to take their own lives into their own hands, take their own risks, use their own autonomy, their own authority, and make a call for themselves, that they should be allowed to do it. But for some reason, getting on my eFoil and having a board floating right next to me the whole time, which ridiculously reduces my chances of actually drowning, is a criminal activity if I don't do it the way that you've determined I should. And life jackets aren't the only thing. So many states have helmet laws. Helmet laws. I live in a state where we actually give a shit about people's personal freedom and decide that if you want to die on the highway, that's your business. And then we thank you for the organs for the sick little children. Why the fuck would we ever make a law that says you can't enjoy something the way you want to because there's a risk involved? And where do we draw the line? And at what point do we go, that's just too risky? At what point do we live in a nanny state where they say, we think it's dangerous to ride any board that is steered with your feet, so therefore it is banned, like it is here? Look it up. It is banned here. Or you're in Canada and they say, you don't get to ride an open prop and experience the thrill of like true torque because we're afraid you're gonna stick your fingers in the hole and cut them clean off. Even though almost every single boat in Canada is exactly that, an open prop on an outboard or an inboard engine that totally will chew you up, spit you up. But for some reason, if you're on an eFoil, that has to be in a goddamn hamster cage. Gotta protect everyone from themselves. That's a problem. So, do you want to know how things get like that? People started talking about you shouldn't do a thing. You should do a thing like this. This thing is dangerous. And no one like me stood up and just f***ing complained and exploded and did everything they possibly could to not make it worth that person's time and that person's sanity to continue to spew this bullshit that erodes our personal freedoms and totally destroys our ability to enjoy things on our own terms and act as adults, being able to make choices for ourselves. And before you know it, the only thing that's allowed is to be walking outside, maybe, with sunscreen on, wrapped in bubble wrap, because the helmet and railing people have said, we cannot let you do anything you enjoy if it could possibly come to harm for you and you alone. And that's a world I don't want to live in, and that's the world we're getting closer and closer to getting. So the next time, I don't care if you're super pro helmets and railings and skateboard padding and all that stuff, you should say, my personal choice is to wear these things. But when you hear someone giving someone else shit about it, man, you gotta stand up for these small fights. You gotta let them know they're not allowed to take them away from you, even if it's just a little debate online or it's a major debate that's about to change the law on you. So I'm not against these things. I'm for them. You should use them. And when it makes sense for me to use them, I do. I'm not arguing against those things. I'm arguing against the people that think they have a right to force their values onto you and to tell other adults what they should or shouldn't do, especially when it has no effect on anyone but themselves. Personal freedoms here, guys. If you don't stand up for them, you'll lose them.